All right, everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil, and today we're going to be discussing signal data drop rates. This is coming off the back of Capital Games going in and reducing the shipment cost for our green and blue signal data. The green signal data, again, used to be 20 crystals per piece. It's now at 15, which makes it the equivalent shipment purchase of the fragmented, the gray signal data, while the flawed signal data went from a 30 crystal per piece valuation down to 25. While that doesn't sound significant to some players, that is a big shift. We have not seen a shift like this before, and it needs to be analyzed in regard to how we potentially farm signal data, where your bonus crystals are, and how to move forward with this information, especially because many feel it could be leading to some changes to signal data down the road, so we want to be prepared with as much information as possible. So with that said, I would first like to thank Agnards for helping kind of run this experiment that we are going to be sharing later. Got a Google Sheet to show you, so I want to give Agnards here a lot of credit for helping me put this together, and because we've collaborated on this, he has officially endorsed this with this video here that we are going to be sharing. So let's all give a second here and hear Agnard's endorsement of this video and of the content that I will be sharing.
My name is Agnards, and I approve this message. Hey, Phil, what did I approve exactly? Phil.
Okay, so that is why there's a lesson in, when you pay people to endorse your content, that you see the content first. Anyway, all seriousness, thank you. Thank you to Agnards for helping put this together. I really appreciate it, man. Let's give a quick shout to our channel members, as always, for their continued support. If you're ever interested, link below, along with a link to the Discord. Go check it out. Really appreciate all of you guys keeping the faith, believing in me. And again, make sure that the link to the spreadsheet that I will be sharing is also in the video description as well, so you'll want to check that out. Again, let's get in here, folks, and let's talk about this signal data shift in pricing and how it's going to impact you as you farm. All right, so we're going to switch over here to the spreadsheet. So let's grab this open here and move that to signal data. So again, big shout out to Agnards for helping put this on. So here is the goal, right? To determine with the new valuations on signal data if CG has shifted the drop rates. So this is also kind of another side of the goal, is when it says CG shifted drop rates. One, determine the new valuations on signal data, but it's also kind of more of an and when/if CG has shifted drop rates, we can determine that. So this is something that will be fluid, that if Capital Games comes out and said we're shifting drop rates on signal data, we'll be able to tell you how much that shift is and how that changes where to farm. So there are instructions here, guys, and it is important that you read the instructions, because to gather data like this, we do need all your help. So head to a sheet and take the next available slot that says fill name. So put your Discord, Reddit, game username in the slot to claim a slot. If a sheet is full, head to the next one. Place the number of battles and number of drop signal data in the applicable slot. So if I went in here to the first sheet and I look for an open area, you will see that it is completely full. So now I'll head to the second sheet and you'll see name goes here. So there's open slots. Again, make sure you guys fill this out. We've got plenty of room for players to be putting this in and helping us conduct this experiment. As you guys can see up here, I have the battles that I've done for gray, green, and blue signal data with the drop rates that are automatically calculated based on my drops. What you'll notice is that across the board, there are variations to drops depending on the different pieces. That's okay. What we're trying to do is, if I just said, yep, these are the drop rates for gray, green, and blue, it's not really that accurate, but because we're grabbing, based on these number of battles, because we're grabbing so much more, we'll be able to give you a much better view of what those battles are and what that really ends up coming down to. So when you look at this first sheet summary, you'll see the drop rate is already summarized for every single cell here based on the drop rate for gray, green, and blue signal data. So this all then is flowing into the summary sheet. So we're going to take this data and go to the summary sheet. This is now taking all of the battles from every single sheet. And again, if we need to add more, we can always add more. But here's the total number of battles. And hi to Fat Phil's audience. Thanks, Ag. So we've done 480 battles of gray signal data. with a total number of drops of 683, coming down to a drop rate of 142%. Again, this is the number of battles, not the amount of energy. That is something to be very well aware of. With green signal data, we've done 1,010 battles for 922 drops, netting a 91% drop rate. And for blue signal data, it is 1,047 total battles for 641 drops, a drop rate of 61%. Now, the reason those numbers are important is, again, it just kind of helps provide context. I think everybody has known that blue signal data always has the worst drop rates. Green has been in the middle, and, the gray signal data was always the best. But let's break this down into a crystal analysis. How do you, what is the cost of each of these farms? Because with that reduction to shipments, it does change valuation. So your farming cost of gray signal data, we've come up with a valuation of a crystal for 9.37 crystals per gray piece. That data is basically saying, okay, we're going to take the 100 crystals you spend on a Cantina refresh. We're going to divide that by our drop rate, divide by the drop rate, and multiplied/divided by, it really is 7.5, which is 120 energy, right? Every refresh you get 120 energy, and it costs 16 energy to do a battle for signal data. So it's every refresh you do is 7.5 extra battles multiplied by our drop rate, and you get that 9.37 crystals that, is the cost for farming that based on this drop rate here. And again, if this drop rate, let's just say that this goes to 150, now the cost automatically will update. So again, this will be a very fluid kind of, this will be a very fluid spreadsheet. The more data we get, if these adjust, this summary sheet will automatically update. Your shipment cost is 15 for them, so a variance of 5.63 crystals saved when you're farming them in Cantina comparative to buying them in the store. Your percent discount there, how much of a discount are you getting by farming them? That's a 37.5% discount. That is pretty nice. For green signal data, it's a 14.61 crystal cost per piece. Again, that's based on the 91% drop rate divided by, times the 7.5 battles, divided by 100 crystals. You're getting down to a variance of only 0.39. It's a 15 crystal cost, 0.39 crystals per piece by farming it. That's only a 2% discount. That is significant. This right here was shocking to find out just how much less valuable it is to be farming this piece. And then for blue signal data, this has also dropped off a little bit because of the reduction in price, where the blue signal data, you are getting a crystal farming, cost of 21.78. Again, that's based off of a 61% drop rate. You're paying, your farming cost is roughly 21.78 crystals. Again, for shipments, right, you're going to pay 25 crystals per piece with a variance of 3 crystals roughly per piece of signal data, a 12.89% discount from farming comparative to buying in shipments. This was eye-opening to me because in the past, it was always the, prescribed method to buy the blue signal data because it took the longest to obtain based on some of the drop rates that I had kind of in my head. Blue signal data kind of had the worst drops, and so it was better just to buy it. This is showing me and many other players that green signal data is now the piece that if you are going to use bonus crystals for, that is the one to do because spending your time farming it, you're saving less crystals. Now, when I say this next point, I want to be very clear. If you are free to play, you still are going to have to farm green signal data. I am talking that buying with bonus crystals, if you have bonus crystals laying around, green signal data is the one you'll want to buy because when you think about your time, right? When you think about your time in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, you think about the time you're going to spend, farming green signal data is going to be the least efficient way to use that time. An example to think about here is over a course of a week, if I farm green signal data, I have, saved myself 2.63 crystal, 2.63% crystals. If I farm the blue, I'm at 12.89, and if I farm the gray, I'm at 37. Now, we don't need as much of the gray signal data, so, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, all right, we're not going to spend all of our time farming this. But you think for blue to comparative to green, I want to spend more of my time farming blue signal data than I want to farm green signal data because I'm getting a better return on that crystal comparative to the cost. This is obviously significant for, other implications as well. When you think about Conquest, if I flip back over to the game, and think about going into Conquest here, one of the things that I spend my excess Conquest currency on, and again, I can't get in there now, but you have your excess Conquest currency, I oftentimes will go in and buy the blue signal data because that's what I would end up spending my bonus crystals on. I can tell you now that that's going to completely shift. My bonus crystals are going to be spent on the green signal data because I'm getting the least amount of savings. I don't want to spend my time farming something that isn't benefiting me all that much. Another just kind of real world example for you, because again, I try to, incorporate things into the real world. My father, he just bought a new car for my mom, and the interest rate on it was low enough to the point that it made more sense for him to take that interest rate instead of paying cash, because his cash could make more money for him in the stock market or in the bank than on the interest rate for that car. That's one of those. Now, again, that's a very high level, oftentimes you're always like, oh, you never want to have, debt. But one of the things you'll learn, and, if you ever take an economics class, is that at times it can be smarter if the interest rate is low enough to take the loan, because your money can earn you more in a market or in the bank than you're gonna pay in that interest. And that's kind of the concept we're applying right here. The crystals you're gonna spend by farming that green signal data are not going to earn you as much as they are if you're farming the blue or the gray. So you want to spend the bonus on the green, and that way the most of your time is spent farming the efficient materials. So just to kind of put my money where my mouth is, to kind of show you, hey, this is what we're talking about and this is what we're doing, I'm going to be going in here with my Lord Vader, and we're going to be going and buying all the available green signal data from weekly shipments. Now, obviously, this is not long-term, feasible for me long-term, but it is going to at least offset for a while that I won't need to buy the green signal data. So I'm going to go in and purchase all of this stuff to put my money where my mouth is, to say, hey, I'm going to live and preach what I tell you guys. That's how I'm planning to spend my bonus crystals every once in a while now. Spend less time farming that, so that way I can focus on the signal data that is going to net me a better return in savings, like the blue and the gray. So with that said, folks, like, subscribe, comment. Again, please make sure you give this spreadsheet a good look. I'd love for this to get shared across so we could get a lot more data here. And again, it's something that I think will be really fun to continue tracking, especially if drop rates ever do change. And again, this model is something that he and I can create anew if there's new signal data introduced to the game, whatever the case is, we can use this same model and, create this to help track drop rates and give you the best information possible. So a massive shout out again to Egnards. And again, I think just one more time, we've got to make sure that we hear his endorsement. In case you missed it, in case you zoned out, got to listen to the endorsement again, fully endorsed by this man right here.
My name is Egnards, and I approve this message. Hey, Phil, what did I approve exactly? Phil.
There you have it, folks. Officially approved by Egnards. Like, subscribe, comment, not just to me, but to Egnards as well. He's got a lot of really good content. I'm going to be sharing his link in the video description down below as well. I love you all. May the force be with you, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, my friends.